Okay, so yesterday night I have a really weird dream, but it was not a dream, it was a nightmare. Why it happened? I know. I know why it happened. But again, we come back to this discussion in which I do believe that certain technology has been weaponized towards people. In my case, as I experienced, there is no reason why this technology should have been weaponized. So this is the phenomenon that some people call the Havana syndrome. Um, can stalking, can stalking. I need to keep practicing the pronunciation of it, and also the target people. So you can just type about this kind of phenomena, and you will find a lot of people who explain similar things as I have explained in the previous videos. But one of the points is that I don't know why this was applied to me if I haven't done anything wrong. So even if this is supposed to be a punishment for something, I think I was targeted wrongly. And there are situations here because yesterday it was a tipping point. For a while, my dreams are not mine. I've been reading psychoanalysis and the reading of dreams, and it happens that the dreams are the only door that you will have directly to your unconscious. If you are not able to see your dreams because you cannot control them, then you are not able to understand yourself. You are not able to meditate in what your brain is trying to solve, which is related to your only life experience. And yesterday, this nightmare, yeah, was so perturbing that I do believe that whoever is doing this is against me. And I do believe also that even trying to put my best efforts always for society, these weapons of mass disruption, that's the technical name, weapons of mass disruption, yeah, has been just utilized on me to precisely not allow me to be. So it's my humanity that is hindered. So I decided to put myself on the line and try to create videos, podcasts, because I have not been able to write. I think the creation of videos and podcasts seems to be a way that can be, let's say, controlled by the matrix, and also a way in which I could produce the most without doing the least effort. So why knowledge is important? Um, all the philosophers, all the classic philosophers, or every single tradition, let's say, even in the Bible, even in texts of governance like um, the Quran or another sacred text like the Bhagavad Gita or every single text that is sacred, as well as any single philosopher that surfaced around 400 BC, comes with the idea that feelings are the glue of society. So we find that feelings is what makes people relate to one another, and this is information. This is the glue of society. The mannerisms, the behaviors, the habits that are formed in a society that becomes culture comes from feelings. So knowledge depart from there. When you see someone for first time and you smile, what you produce might be a warm feeling that creates a connection, a relation, and then this connection becomes, again, the glue of society, the matrix. Like we have a few kind of examples that are in every single text that is as well sacred and well known philosophically, etc. That is, don't do to the other what you don't desire to be done upon you, or treat the others you would like to be treated. And these are kind of universal rules. So why? Because it's the way in which humans can live in the best possible way. So through time, you start to develop, depending on the geography, you start to develop a culture that is based on feelings. And the culture based on feelings creates social norms. Let's say in the desert, which is a harsh environment, there is not much water, there are not many fruits. The places in which you can get water are just a few. And because of this geography, then people arm themselves in such a way that they are able to live according to the geography. Let's say part of this toolkit is, as is also one of the rules of the desert, to have hospitality. Um, in the old days, the commerce in the desert was very difficult. Not many people was able to just take a camel and travel to another place for fun. They have to prepare themselves. They have to know their routes. They always have to take the same route as the others, because if the situation becomes dangerous, then they might be rescued by someone else. Also, the people in those areas will know the spots in which people could rest, have water, etc. Or otherwise, as humans do, they will condition the terrain in such a way that people will allow to survive those trips. So it is a rule in the desert that you should offer hospitality, because people will trade goods. Was a place in which there are harsh conditions, and in order to survive, you have to collaborate. If the routes becomes dangerous, no one will be able to trade. And in order to trade, then you will help the other. This is a social norm that becomes really clear because the conditions of the desert are very sharp. It is difficult in the jungle, in which you might not struggle to get some fish from the sea or from the rivers. You won't struggle to get some bananas or fruits that will be just a meters far away. There is plenty of water. You might be paying attention to other kind of dangers, like let's say certain poisonous animals, and also you will pay attention to not eating the wrong plant, the wrong mushroom, and as well you will try to um, conserve knowledge that is related with the illnesses, because there are many illnesses happening in the jungle. So the population in the jungle always were very decimated because there were many kind of disease that are related with the environment, as there are many, let's say, biological um, uh, beings there. Well, but we have knowledge as a social glue in every single society. This knowledge starts to accumulate, and then we have different cultures, different beliefs, religions, blah, blah, blah. And then we have what we call the matrix, which is simply the common rules that people follow daily. And since we have internet and we had another kind of technologies, these rules start to change. And when these rules change, also the power dynamics change. And what I had been experiencing from my perspective, from what I feel, what I know is that I don't have schizophrenia. I I had been experienced the power of a technology. This technology affects your nervous system, affects your brain. How that happens? I have several theories. It might be done by, let's say, exploring the electromagnetic spectrum, in which you will have the pole traps, and also you will have the other environmental contamination of electromagnetic waves, 4G, 3G, 5G, whatever, it doesn't matter. 5G is not the problem, really. It could be Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. But taking that contamination, process it to an AI, you are capable of knowing the environment. Why? Because the electromagnetic waves are part of the electromagnetic spectrum as light is. So when we see light, light behaves as a particle and as a wave. But our eyes are designed to only see a small spectrum of this electromagnetic field. Electromagnetic waves are vastly broad. So technically, as these wave bounce, there are devices that will capture the environment and also the changes in it. So that includes your brain, your movements, because your whole nervous system um, moves and works because there is current in it. So these are electrical impulses that it doesn't matter how small they become, they affect the electromagnetic spectrum. Why? Because every single atom has electrons in it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an atom. It will be just spare subquantum particles, and we will have also a situation in which these particles are more excited than at other times. Let's say if I think in something specific, then that part of the brain will light up. There will be more current, and the contamination of the electromagnetic waves will carry that information with them as they are disturbed by this energy. And as I said, then if you are able to capture what is part of the environment and what is a disturbance, you can process that through AI to know um, what even a person is thinking or how it's moving, etc. But there are also some technologies that I haven't inquired yet totally, but it's plausible that simply people like me has been like violated through nanotechnology. It means that it's likely that there is some nanotechnology that will attach in your nerves and will magnify these signals to make them more readable. This can be really small particles. And if that is, I mean, I'm speaking about theories. I'm speaking about something that is not proven. So whatever you think about it is still being a conspiracy. It's not something proven. To prove this, I have to I have to have a military grade radar that will take all the disturbance in the environment and then process it through AI to find the signal specifically that is causing the voices, causing the dreams, causing all those external stimulations. Yeah. Another day I will speak more about that. But we are talking about the knowledge, how it moves. There are different situations in society in which wars occur because there is asymmetric information. Let's say this asymmetric information can simply be so let's the tension can be so up far apart the frictional information that occur between systems. Like, let's say, the system, the capitalist system, is not one system. It's conformed by different systems, different cultures. Some of them are more independent than other systems, but all systems are in communication with each other. And when these systems have a lot of asymmetric information, I have to go to the door. Okay, so it's like 7 7:30 p.m. and I haven't eaten anything, so I ordered some salad and some rice so I could continue living. And but I come back to this kind of information and that, let's say, interact between systems. So asymmetric information is when different parties have different information. So none of them have all the information. The more means in which these parties communicate, reach agreements, they also order themselves around the other system, the more glue, social glue they will have. But this is not social glue. This is like a kind of systemic glue, yeah? This is different of the interaction that we have one to another person, yeah? The social glue of the matrix of the people that is on the street is related with more, let's say, basic stuff like feelings and norms, culture, all of this departing from feelings, yeah? Let's say the rule is not to say hello to another person by punching them in the face. The rule is usually a convention in which you smile and say hello, or you bow, or you give your hand. And these are social conventions. Yeah, this is, let's say, to feel the other person welcoming, and in that order, develop whatever relationships that is happening in society. According to Henry Kissinger, in the old days, when a system will have an interaction with another system, let's say in the desert, you will find that a foreigner will be always well received by hospitality. At the same time, the place where the foreigner is visiting uh, will set up certain measurements to, let's say, see if that person is a spy or not, or whatever, or see, let's say, seek some information about the other person. At the beginning, people who will travel to another place will not even speak the same language. So they will start to set up norms from the first day to communicate to each other. And there are some universal norms that smiling or trying to be calm, polite. I mean, you wouldn't do like fast movements in which you will put nervous another person, etc. And usually the information of a foreigner will come straight to whoever is governing that place. Um, it, this is something depicted in the book of Henry Kissinger called Diplomacy. So when we start to see some power dynamics here in management and also interaction of information, etc. What has been happening to me is something that doesn't match that pattern. It's something that I see as a mistake. It's something very disruptive for humanity because I have, let's say, the sensations that I have are not mine. They feel induced. The sensations that are produced in myself are not coming from my unconscious. Yesterday, I have a dream that doesn't mean anything for me. It's not coming from my unconscious. It seems to be a kind of test. And it was very disturbing. But I do believe it's not a kind of test anymore because I've been in this situation since 2016, 2017, maybe even before that. And my first hospitalization happened in 2017, and I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2018. But my thesis is that I don't have schizophrenia. This is actually a technology. Um, why I say that my dreams feel not coming from me? Because it's simply not something that I experience like or is related with my personality at all. I like to dream, I like to read my dreams because the dreams are the only, let's say, the dreams are the only reliable door to the unconscious. It means that if my dreams are taken away and they are placed with artificial dreams, someone is taking away my humanity, is taking away um, a feature of humans that since I cannot access, feels that my humanity is being removed. Under this logic, I feel that I'm not being helped. I feel that someone wants me to fail. I feel that I have to step up. I have to not keep my head low. I feel that I have to battle and face his back. I also see that many people who experience gun stalking is are persons who doesn't have the knowledge to understand what's going on because you need to know about neuroscience. The first book that I read about neuroscience was when I probably had 25 years. I'm 33 now. Yeah, I was probably younger. Um, but I knew about artificial intelligence. At that time, they used to call it neural networks. And there was something new. I'm talking about 2007. Yeah, 18 years ago. They were talking about deep learning, and I understood the concept of it, but I never imagined that the the capacity that billions and now trillions of point of information will cause in a neural network. So one of the first things that I noticed in the voices that I start to hear were that they follow patterns, and these voices were learning. The voices were not related with my unconscious. I thought that was the social unconscious because I never felt that that was coming from myself. It's not related myself as I knew it because I studied psychoanalysis by myself, psychoanalysis of Erich Fromm, a little bit of Carl Jung, a lot of Zizek, who is from the Lacanian tradition, and I had some knowledge about Sigmund Freud. At my house, we used to have a few books of Sigmund Freud. So my father used to as well. He's someone who liked to read them, and he also would talk to me about it. But still, the basics of psychoanalysis are that you have an unconscious, and that unconscious can be explored in many ways. But it feels that many of many many things in my expression, in my thinking, are being suppressed. One of the reasons I cannot speak English properly is because it feels that I'm being stopped for two reasons. One of them is the antipsychotics. The antipsychotics shut down your brain. So whoever had the idea to put me in them just condemned me to have between 10 to 20 years less of my life. And besides that is to hinder your brain, to not allow you to think properly. It means that as well your system, your biological system moves slower. So I start to gain a lot of weight, then your libido technically is gone. You have to take another medication if you want to have an erection. Yeah. You have to take another medication if you don't want to feel without energy. So I have to take as well one kind of smart drug, and I have to take another antidepressant just because the antipsychotic. So target people, people who experience gun stalking are deemed to die quicker because someone decides so. Someone decide that they should die quicker. So someone decide that they have to take all these kind of medications. Someone decide that they have to be under antipsychotics, and therefore, because it depresses your brain, yeah, antipsychotics just shut down the electrical connections. It means that when the electrical connections are shut down, it is more difficult to think, and then your digestive system goes slower, your strength go out, yeah, just faint, your cognitive capacities decline, um, then your energy becomes a struggle, and you have to counter this with more medication, and this medication is expensive. Yeah, last time I checked, let's say one of my antipsychotics costs $3,000 per month in the United States, 3,000 USA. I'm not really sure. Last time I checked that was in 2019. Still here in Australia, that's paid by Medicare. Well, in the other hand, they put me in a situation in which I cannot have the social glue and I cannot be part of the social glue, because it's really difficult to see someone that you know, you love, you appreciate, someone who is a friend, someone who you get on well with, and not being able to smile. And then you feel the whole time plain. You feel that the whole time your feelings are plain. So even make this video takes some effort, and you are always looking something that will stimulate yourself because you struggle getting energy. And before, I used to have a lot of energy. I wanted to really explore life. And one of the things that keep me moving is knowledge, because I think that's part of life, to know as much as you can, as possible. Some people choose to live, yeah, in just in other ways that also might be simple, but success is never simple. Yeah. Success can be to have a family, to be healthy, and to enjoy the company of your loved ones. When you have schizophrenia, schizophrenia is the modern definition of craziness. And craziness, sociologically, has always followed the same relation with society. So someone who is deemed crazy is someone who the family will try to hide. Someone who is deemed crazy is someone who public figures would like not to be associated with. Someone who is crazy is someone who in the old days will be just live on the street. Someone who is crazy is someone who people is confused about how to react to that person, and then that confusion leads as well to the stigma. Yeah, you have part of this matrix and the social glue, the stigma in the movies. The movies show that people that is crazy is always, especially people who has psychosis, is always violent, is always a bad person, and statistically, people who experience schizophrenia and psychosis, they tend to be the victims. So that's statistically, yeah. So it's very rare that you will see someone doing something violent. But in my experience, my first psychosis episode, after being months without sleeping, because I was not allowed to sleep, now you will see that there are technologies that can do that. There are technologies that can put you to sleep and wake you up. In the future, you will see something called electronic prescriptions. Well, but I just leave it there. Uh, it, in my first episode, I it was related with terrorism. I will always see in my feed, in my social in Facebook at that time, I will see a lot of things related with terrorism, with the Islamic state and so on. They will be always in another language, and most of them there will be like violent videos. I follow a friend who used to be AMA fighter or something like that, and and then I will have a lot of uh, uh, UFC fights and all that happening there. And, that releases some kind of serotonin in your brain. But I always been sensitive to the violence. So I do believe that at the same time I was watching that, I was being stimulated by that technology in such a way that I will feel that I like that. But I was conscious of that, and then I stopped to watch that, and I tried to change my algorithm. So I became conscious of the algorithm, and I started to study the algorithm, what was coming in it. It's really difficult because it takes time. Just as being conscious of your body could be as being conscious of your surroundings. Let's say our eyes can focus just in one place. That's about a biological feature that we have. But even if your eyes are not focusing in one place, you can be aware of everything that is in your visual frame. If you can utilize that, you will become more aware of your surroundings. Yeah. The more conscious you are, the more connected you are with that vision, the more aware you are, the more attention you pay to your breathing, the more aware you are, the more you will try to be logical, reasonable, etc. And at that time, when I was experiencing these kind of changes in my algorithm, I was already isolated. So the algorithm can detect, because they let's say a company like Meta will know whatever you write on WhatsApp or whatever you write in Facebook, etc. So they know proportionally how much you are connected with the people in your society. So initially, they would say things like, yeah, what they call the lone wolves. So it felt to me in the middle of the psychosis that I was being targeted as a lone wolf. Yeah, and what that means. And it, it, I don't know what that means. I hope that in the future, someone comes out with that information. But well, in my experience, what happened is that the algorithm was trying to drive me to a place in which I would say, from my perspective, will be a similar thing of what terrorists might have experienced in their algorithm. Since I was conscious of it, especially because when the situation in Donetsk, Donbass, and all the Russia-Ukraine issues start to happen, um, I was seeing that I will see political stuff related with that when I was never interested in anything related with Ukraine, Russia borders, or anything like that. Before that, I started to have a lot of Russian propaganda. Yeah, so you will see Putin just walking with funny music. You will see him, yeah, riding a bird. You will see him. You will see, yeah, a lot of stuff was going on at that time. So one of the things that I noticed is that my algorithm was showing me propaganda about what they call the nationalists. That will be the Ukraine fighters. and my flatmate will start to have the propaganda about the separatists who were the Russian ethnic Ukraine or Russian speakers, etc. Not saying that any side was wrong, but it was very interesting to see that the algorithm was having certain patterns. I will start to see many people from different countries writing things about Ukraine having their independence coming from different countries. At that time, also was well known that a lot of people from everywhere in Europe was going to the border of Ukraine, and most of these people was related with the extreme right for some reason. I don't know if that's true or not. Actually, a lot of the things that I saw, I couldn't understand them because I do not speak Italian, I do not speak Polish, etc. But I was interesting because, yeah, I like the social sciences. I also I did not have at that time my bachelor of politics, philosophy, and economics, but at that time I was reading sociology, reading neuroscience, reading complex disorders of the brain, etc. I had a interesting list of books that I used to borrow from all the libraries at that time in Sydney. And well, when I started to notice this pattern, it didn't become evident at the first time. It takes some awareness to become very, let's say, uh, knowledgeable of what's going on in this kind of algorithms. And when I was totally alone, already isolated, the worst things start to happen. Then I will see just things that wouldn't be related with my personality. I do believe that probably they thought I was someone violent or someone extremist. But what was happening is that I will always choose in every single algorithm things that I don't like just to explore different fields because I knew that these echo chambers and another bubbles exist. So is it an empirical study that I was doing there is to explore what was going on there. And my voices start to be correlated with what I was looking in my feed. Okay, but that's also a symptom of schizophrenia. But technically, it's possible through engineering to create the symptom. As I spoke before, if you can stimulate and pinpoint on a specific part of your brain, you will just wake up that thought or create certain sensation of pleasure to attach to whatever you are doing or create kind of discomfort to create a relation of not liking something, etc. So when I started to experience that, I thought eventually hearing the voices, etc., that I was being watched because it's very strange that the voices react to what you do. Depending on what you do, the voices react to it, and then you become paranoid. I'm not paranoid anymore. Why? Because I understand how that technology works. So it's actually a piece of cake to not be paranoid. It's about understanding. When you are paranoid, it's because you have fear, you don't understand what's going on. But once you start to feel the stimulus, you not only become like emotionally more intelligent, but you actually become neuro aware and you also become, uh, yeah, an observer of what is being applied to you. Uh, when when I was experiencing the induced psychosis episode, it was linked with me being alone, with me being in a position in which I couldn't, let's say, relate to others because I couldn't sleep for a long time. And I will always hear voices, and yeah, it will be really annoying. And after a while, yeah, you start to become very tired, and this deteriorates the brain. And suddenly the voices start to say that I have a bomb in one of my luggage, in one of my luggage bags. Like I opened that bag, I check the whole luggage, and I didn't find anything. This was like one of those hard shell luggages, and then I checked, nothing was there. Then the voices start to say that I have a bump in my knee, well, in one of the bones in my leg. And then I thought, okay, this is a bone, maybe it's TNT, but the TNT wouldn't do much because the explosion of the TNT, it will just release so much energy. So it must be something very powerful, like C4 plus. Then I thought, okay, the bone is this big, and the strength of the bone must be at least this much. And if any kind of bomb was installed in my leg, then it must be something powerful enough that will be contained at least in this radius. So the explosion will not go bigger than this much. And thinking that, I do believe that it was expected to me to say that I have a bomb, or maybe be violent, or maybe have some anger and say that I have a bomb or something like that. But no, what I actually did was like, I was ready to die because in my reality, I knew I'm gonna die. So, okay, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die, but I don't want to kill anyone. If they are doing this, I don't want them to be successful, because even if this is true, I have no revenge, and I love the Australian society. I don't want to hurt the Australian society. What I see on the street, what I see for every single interaction in Australia is that most of the people, like 99%, want the best for each other. They are nice people, and is far away of, let's say, what I want to do to hurt the people. It's far away of what I want to do here. So I went to a place and I called the police. I told them, this is the situation. I have a bomb in my leg. I did not put it there. It must have happened when I had my surgery in the leg. I don't want to kill anyone, so I don't know what to do because I'm about to explode. The police, another day I will do a video with more detail, but the police came, they did a procedure that was here in Melbourne. They did a procedure that was impeccable. They took their tasers, going with them. They always have really good communication with me. And lights, that was at nighttime. I don't know, midnight, 1 a.m. They put the lights, and it was very easy going because they instruct me what to do. They knew that it was safe to approach me, and they just did what they did. They put the handcuffs. It was very easy. I mean, and they knew what they were doing because they thought or relate this very quick to a mental health issue. No, not saying that they knew what was going on with this technology, but rather they followed an impeccable procedure, so it was no trauma in that sense. When the police came and so on, it was in other ways amazing. Actually, the police was not saying it was so nice, but they read so much the situation that well that they understood that I was not trying to do any harm. And they told me that they're gonna help me, and they took me to the hospital. And I, as well, I was always collaborating, of course. And then everything went well. Then I finished in the hospital. Then I got the diagnosis. Um, but then the situation is, what if I'm right? Why this is important? This is a new technology that will disturb how humans relate to each other. This is a technology powerful enough to create a new matrix of society. It means that the way in which humans relate to one another will change, and is changing. And because asymmetrical information that is between societies and the people, then confusion start to appear. Yeah. And this technology has been implemented, and I do believe one of the things that people like Elon Musk is trying to solve is how to bridge that knowledge gap between society and the technology that only can be applied by someone or somebody that has enough money, power, etc., to do this kind of stuff, which will be the military. Not saying that it's the military of the United States, etc., but in another video, I will explain why everything points there. Um, in the other hand, the social glue is in jeopardy at the moment. And when that starts to happen, a lot of paranoia comes out in the second, this seems to be like the second Cold War. But in the first Cold War, um, people was super paranoid. I was born in the 91, and it was the year in which the Soviet Union fell. But all the people in the 80s, people who was born in the 70s, they experienced another reality. The boomers are the boomers because they were the most affected by that kind of Cold War mentality. So imagine every day you being bombed with the possibility of having a nuclear explosion happening in your city. The offices, the schools, the cities, the streets, they were conditioned to react to a nuclear disaster. So there were alarms in place to just inform the people before a nuclear uh, bomb arrives in the city. Uh, People will create simulacrs of an event like that. The kids were trained in school about how to survive in the case of a nuclear event. So there was a lot of paranoia, a lot of fear in society. What is happening nowadays is not new. So don't think that you are crazy. Don't think that that I mean, don't think that this is something to fear about. No, it's actually something that you should not fear or be paranoid about. Oh, rather, is a time in which everyone should seek clarity because this is not new. This happened already. Everyone was paranoid, and at the end, just before they start to launch missiles to each other with nuclear nukes, then they decide to talk. Yeah, just before the Cuba crisis, in which you will have some nuclear missiles in Ukraine and some nuclear missile in Cuba. So it was easy as two guys having a cold and hey, can you remove your missiles? Yeah, but if you remove yours, yeah, please. I think that will be wise and yes, something obvious to do. So that's how the Cold War technically ended, or somehow. Well, it ended with the fall of the Soviet Union, but that was the peak of the tension. So everyone was super paranoid, etc. Blah blah blah. So this is not something new, and we are living in a special age because might not be governments the ones that have the most information, might be companies. Google. I'm recording this on Zoom. I don't know if Zoom's processed this video and stored it for them because they are training AI models. Um, I don't know if all the information that they use from my brain train AI models, but I seen certain things in which another day I will dedicate another video to discuss why I think they are actually training models from my brain and decision making. So I say there is this kind of Freudian slips in which you try to say a word and then another one comes out but it is because I just simply was not that aware thinking in what exactly I'm gonna say next. And it's very difficult because I cannot control that, but it feels uh, like imposed. And it's not something that I struggled with before. Uh, I will not have this kind of slur speech, which is also a symptom of schizophrenia. But you know, in the DSM-5, the diagnosis manual of mental disorders, you will have things like in the past, like being gay, something considered as a mental disorder, being transvested, etc. So, um, might be the DSM-5 kind of weaponized instrument. I don't know. But I do believe that that is even easier to track down in the history of the institutions, the history of the mental health institutions, the history of when and how mental illness and craziness has been weaponized, etc. But the point is that if this technology is capable of doing this and this is happening, then we are having a huge disturbance in what we call the social glue. So disturbing that the matrix is changing, and that might be part of what we call the singularity. So we are having a system, let's say the system that we all know that is the capitalist system in which someone creates a new technology, gives a service, and gets reward for it. This system has breakthrough technologies that then become services and then people profit from it. Having AI, the creation of new technology is becoming so fast, and the acceleration of these new breakthrough technologies is coming out so fast and is being used in an unregulated, irresponsible way so much that the system is accelerating with no control at the point that the system it itself start to change, because the acceleration of the system becomes so fast, the nature of the system change. And it most important includes the way in which people relate. So we have this situation nowadays everyone is in their mobile phones. All the people wants to connect with other people, but most of the people is anxious. Most of the people wants to connect, but they don't know how. After COVID, a lot of people lose this kind of social information in which you will able to relate with kids. Let's say in Japan, they were teaching the kids to smile because they couldn't relate to each other. So being minors the most affected, we have a new generation that is post-COVID. It's not like we were born in the 90s and we will just start a chat to know each other. There are social norms, like, yeah, you start to talk about the weather. This is a very well-known English tradition. Um, you just talk about the weather. You maybe met the person at the second time, and then you can ask about what job do you have, because the English tradition seems to be more power contrast related. In the United States tradition, which is more individualistic and economic focus, then it's okay to ask, what do you do for work? Yeah. Uh, let's say in Colombia, you can just say something like, hey, mate, how are you? What do you think about this? You just throw a joke. I don't know how it's nowadays. I haven't been in Colombia for a while, but uh, changes depending on the place where I grew up. It was in the countryside, and you wouldn't care about many things because everything used to be very easygoing. It's like the peasant's life and countryside, and nice place to grow and so on. It was not a city, different rules of society. But since we have internet and we have a new generation that has a phone, we create every single wave of new kids coming out from society, depending on their relation to technology, depending on their relationship to their phones, depending on their relationship to their computer. Yeah. So there is a middleman now between humans' relations, which is technology. People date and know each other mainly not because they know each other in a cafe, in a library, on the street, whatever. People start to copulate and fornicate and have love or create families because they know each other through one of those matching apps like Tinder and Hinge, etc. I have them all, not success. But it's interesting that there is a middleman between humans now, and that middleman is always a company, is always, it's not even a government, is always someone else. It's another structure that is not even your own culture, or can be your own culture, but it's not the rules that you decide. It's not what you want to show to the others. It's not, you cannot control how you want to appear, and you will have the control of how you appear depending on how aware you are of this technology and how much power do you have. Because if you have a lot of power, you wouldn't need one of these apps. You, if you are powerful, you enjoy privacy, and privacy is not anymore a right. Then this new social glue creates a kind of new public infrastructure. And this public infrastructure might look very different in 5 years. So I might look crazy for now, but in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, I'll be right. Because this technology that has been applied to me has been applied unjustly and has been diminished my humanity. It is like it feels that no one believes you, but you don't expect that everyone knows about AI, neuroscience, social relations. No, I mean, you don't expect that all the people knows how the electron that is, yeah, a part of the atom will work. I mean, you don't expect people to know all the electromagnetic spectrum, all the formulas of it. I don't even know all of them myself, but I have some notion of it. I have a little bit of notions about every single of these things. And this complements with what we call misinformation, because if these thoughts are being just pushed in my brain, if these thoughts are not mine, if these words or part of them are not mine, if I have to always self-correct myself when I speak, self-correct myself when I think, it's because someone is pushing ideas. And we have a problem with misinformation. We have a problem with beliefs that are not real. We have a problem with fake information, fake news. So if you think about this, you have seen a pattern in society and its relation with technology in which first groups of people will receive, big groups of people will receive the same information. Let's say you will have the, the diary, the newspapers, And it was the same newspapers for everyone. When you had the radio, you will have different channels and different transmission of radio depending on which radio station you choose. So you have a little bit of freedom choosing which radio station to hear, although the information that you will receive will be fixed for you depending on the radio station owners, beliefs, ideology, whatever. But then you start to see the diversification of information as well as a possibility of choice. Then you start to have TV and you start to have a broader variation of choices in which you could get your information. As well, you will start to have different controls, so depending on the language, the state, depending on the country, and you will start to have also um, a kind of conflict or power dynamics between who controls this information. So we have three factors here. The choices that you have, the information that simply you cannot choose. I mean, the information is there. You cannot choose what is there. Right now, I'm creating the information. I choose what to put there. It was not done at the time of when your only option to have information was the TV. Nowadays, I will put this video in YouTube and you decide you don't want to watch it and I decide what to produce. Yeah, you as well can decide what to produce and I choose if I want to see it. So we have this possibility of producing information, which becomes broader. We have also more choices to choose from. And we also have a kind of a situation in which everything starts to mix up because the information is not just made for you, chosen by you, but the information is accommodated or produced depending on what you do. It means that society is affecting the information more. It means that our relation with information is not of consumption or production, but is more, it all becomes every single time more about a group thinking. And we come back to what is knowledge and what is the kind of social glue. The social glue is, let's say, these trends that sometimes teenagers come out with of, I don't know. Now, yeah, I see that some people says that this is the Japanese heart because it looks like a heart, actually. Not this heart, but this one. Or this thing that they do like this. And I myself do that kind of stuff. And someone produce it, change the metrics, everyone else produce it. So we see a different kind of echo chambers in which the focus of the information of people, the number of units in the group is smaller. So countries used to receive one information. With the radio, you will have more or less states or territories. With the TV, you will have people who likes the documentaries, people who likes the news, and then these groups become every single time smaller and smaller. And these groups themselves affect the information. But nowadays, these groups affect the information, they produce it, they consume it, and becomes everything this same glue. Yeah. And if we follow that pattern, we're gonna find ourselves not being in a group anymore, but being a unit that produces information, consumes information depending on the production, depending on what is thrown to us, and our information that is already stored in our brains might not be comprehensible for someone else because this is a pattern of individualization. So then we will have smart glasses, we will have the VR sets, and we will have a self-contained unit, a human, that will live technically in one reality in the matrix without social interaction, and the glue might become the AI agent, an AI agent that will be since a person was born till death. Maybe these AI agents will become an NFT and they will be taken through generations. It's a new way in which humans will relate to each other. But now another pattern is that we're gonna have more middlemen, and these middlemen are the companies. So if I'm right, and this technology that is being applied in my brain is real, then they are also taking the information from my brain. They are creating AI models. They are technically torturing me because they are not just condemning me to have antipsychotics and to live less, to have less interaction with other humans, and condemned to love less, and condemned to uh, being considered an outsider. Yeah, because it's not easy when you have a date and you say to a woman, I was diagnosed with this thing, and the other person doesn't know how to react. So the first reaction is confusion and avoidance, because why to be with someone who is deemed as ill when you can be with someone who is sane? And this was applied upon me without consent for no reason. I would like to go to court if I did something wrong. That would be amazing. But there is no proof of anything that I have done wrong. And I do believe if there is any proof of me doing something wrong in the future, the proof might be digital. It might not be solid evidence, which will be very interesting. Because technically with AI, you can do you can recreate anything. And people doesn't understand yet. People think that they can recognize what is AI, but AI right now is undistinguishable from what is real, yeah, in the digital format. So this new matrix will bring a lot of problems. My theory is that it's better for us to have a psychological shock than to have a war. One of my theories, already taken by this technology, is that informational friction happens between cultures because cultures depart from physical forms, and the physical is something that becomes information and the glue in society. So let's say in the old days, humans will need to hunt, gather, etc. And when women will be pregnant, they will be more exposed to dangers. They cannot run as fast, etc. They have to take care of the baby. Then it is the right of the strongest person who biologically is meant to take care of women. So this idea that we are stronger for domination is relative because we might be stronger for protection. And that's the reason is we are stronger for protecting our lovers, our mothers, our sisters, yeah, physically, biologically. As technology advances, this changes. And also, I know that there is a lot of women that are way more faster, stronger, better than me, etc. So everything is relative. Even if you think that you are the stronger, smarter man, believe me, there is always one woman that is smarter, stronger, and faster than you. So that's relative always. But statistically, there is a biological pattern. And as technology advances, we're going to start to use exoskeletons, and then simply technology allows for women to have the same rights without distinction of doing between men and women. And that's important because the more women are able to do what men are allowed, because we have that privilege to do whatever we want, then the you will develop a more capable society, because we are not hunting and gathering anymore. We are using our brains more. We are thinking more. So that relation of power is just going away, it's fading. It might not be blur for now, but in the future, once we start to do genetic modifications, it will become another thing. But for now, it is blurring, and the society in which women could achieve the same as men because they have the same opportunities is society that has more capacity for anything. More capacity for having neuroscientists, more capacity for having AI programmers, more capacity for having engineers, more capacity for everything. So why a society would like to limit their labor force to half of availability? I mean, you will have a labor force and you need doctors, engineers, whatever. And why would you like to limit the pool of professionals to half of it? Yeah, think about that. So ideally, you will have equal opportunity for everyone. It's this logic. Then this also creates new kind of, let's say, opportunities, cultures, and because of these differences between societies and asymmetrical information, you start to have frictional information. Why? Because the social glue is not that strong. Then you start to have conflicting information that is not only related with the information that you have, but it's related with the habits and manners, customs, culture that contradict each other. Yeah, against manners, behavior, and culture, well, the glue of society, and in this way, you start to have problems. Someone might be opportunistic enough to make not a solution of it, but take it as I don't know, propaganda measures, or create the imagery of an out group, an in group, and create the imagery that the out group is bad, is bigger, and then create the imagery for the in group to believe that is in danger. This is something called in group, out group theory. So if you start to have this kind of conflicting information because the social glue is being disrupted by the leader of the technological world, then it means that the bridge between other societies is becoming is just becoming worse off, and such gaps make us distant ourselves from other humans and make us slowly enemies, threats, and these kind of gaps also create dangerous uh, bubbles that then could become dangerous bodies or masses because they live in one reality as other realities are denied. And even more, you will have the opportunity to not just isolate one group, but granularly, or at, yeah, pictures and atomize units in such a way that you will just remove them from society without taking them to jail or anything like that, but simply by controlling their brains, putting antipsychotic, killing them quicker, etc. So or what we are experiencing is something like that, a transition as well in which the technology is training humans to be machines, have certain beliefs, and as humans become machines, we try to create machines that look like humans. We have not a technocracy, but let's say what Yanis Varoufakis called the techno-feudalism. And in this techno-feudalism, we have a situation in which humans cannot distinguish reality, cannot relate to each other. They are isolated. They cannot connect easily. And they cannot control the information. They have no privacy. Then it starts to corrupt the social interaction internally and externally. And then you start to have a new kind of matrix. It's not that the system is falling, it's in trouble. But I mean, that's the disturbance or any breakthrough technology. I mean, it's a transformation, yeah? The problem is that if the asymmetric information becomes too large, if the distance between the extremes become larger and larger and larger, you start to have more frictional information. And as you cannot control the information in one of the extremes, and I'm not talking about right, left, international, whatever. I'm talking about many civilizations and society. As if you cannot control all this friction of information between them, you will always have the best strategy to lead the rhetoric, and the best way in which you will always have the upper hand in the information and the rhetoric is to create an urgency. And one of the urgencies is as happened in the first first Cold War and second World War, in which you could simply start a war. If you start a war, it's easy to subdue anything socially because who is against the war, who is against the efforts of war will be anti-patriotic, will be against society, and that's a problem. Because if someone takes that rhetoric, it's leading everyone to war because controls the information, because controls what you think, because control physically what is in your brain, because control what likes you, what doesn't like you, who doesn't like you. Yeah. So as this creates like like granular compartability and also some kind of isolation between humans, as I think we are experiments with people who has been neurotarget. then they will have enough information to do this at any stage and point in, from now on in history. And that's not to be a human, that's taking humanity away from us. That's what dystopia looks like, because dystopia is technological by default. Dystopia has no relationship with nature by default. Dystopia is against any kind of human interaction that nurture good feelings. Dystopia is against truth. Dystopia is against freedom. Dystopia is against free speech. Dystopia is against the broad spectrum of colors. Dystopia tend to be black and white. Dystopia tend to be the negation of other realities, which is always fascism. So the fascism. So fascism is dystopia by default. Now, when you negate another realities and you just impose one, even if that means people living in different algorithms, I mean, just one extra level of complexity, still being fascism. Because if you want to really explore what is your human condition, what is to be human, if you want to explore what you are capable or not capable, now you will have a barrier. That is something that will manage you and will tell you what you can do and what you cannot do. But it's even worse than telling you what you can do and what you cannot do, because the social contract is about that. You can do this and you cannot do this for the good of society. But in a dystopian future, is about not knowing that what you are doing is not what you want to do. And that's how power works. Is I mean, if you have power and you can make believe the other person that what they are doing is done by themselves, that's the ultimate power. Okay. And if the social contract says something and you honor the social contract, and honoring the social contract becomes dangerous for some people, then that's dystopian. And more or less, that's my experience. So I'll be happy to hear what you think, or if you want to leave any comment. I also want to continue doing more videos. I want to actually get a proper set for podcasts, etc., because I see no other way to escape what the reality that has been imposed on me. And I feel that we are also in historical and dangerous times. This might be similar to what humans have experienced pre-war, because there is only a few soldiers and a few civilians, victims, that have experienced war. And there has not been, never ever, a global war. But now, even if some people negate that we are globalized, the next war will be a global war, because we are a globalized society. Anyone in the world can see this video, and it and most of us have lived in a generation of peace, and we don't know what's war. And some people forget that war is the ultimate sin, and they might wage for war without knowing what they are doing, and eventually we all gonna regret. And it is important to put this conversation forward, because I cannot see any of those, let's say, well-known scholars that are, I don't know, in TV touching these kind of subjects. They also might not have experience or know what I know related with the technology that has been imposed on me. They also might be afraid. Yeah. And I've been technically tortured with this technology since 2016 and 17. I lost most of my friends. My family stayed with me because they have great values. Uh, but most of my friends got confused initially, and I started to be alone, and then I start to accept my reality, and it has become a challenge. It has become especially a challenge to talk about this and again look crazy for your loved ones. So it's a war between me and one of them, or many of the major global powers, I would say. But it's as well a fight to save lives and to keep stability, to keep sanity, to bring rather a psychological shock and not a war, to entangle conversations, to really create new possibilities, to diminish asymmetrical information. Yeah, and I see this as important. So just leave a comment or anything that you would like, because ideally I will make money out of this new habit that I'm trying to form. Thank you.